Screw with it. Sorry about this. Sorry. My screen. Okay, it's better now. Hello, everybody. Glad to have you here. You're welcome to another exciting review of How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Right, and today we're going to be reviewing chapter 3 of part 2. Let me go there quickly. Which says, talk about your own mistakes first. Talk about your own mistakes first. All right. Before you criticize anybody, before you point out what they are doing wrong, let them know that you are also not a saint yourself and that you are prone to the same mistake or that you have made similar mistakes in the past. We see that from the story of Dale Carnegie himself. A long time ago, his niece Josephine has come to New York to be his secretary, to work for him as his secretary. But then Josephine was just 19 years old, and she would make, yeah, part four. I'm not sure if I said that wrong, but it's part 4, chapter 3. Thank you. Right. So Josephine had no business experience, and then she would make so many mistakes. But Dale would criticize her, point out her mistakes and all of that, until one day he had to call himself to order and reminded himself that, hey, when you were 19 years old, you were not even doing as much as Josephine is now doing. When you were 19, you were not even working anywhere. When you were 19, you made loads and loads of mistakes. And come to think of it, Josephine is just 19. She had just left high school. She has no business experience. You have like 10,000 or more times business experience than her. You are like twice her age, right? So why are you so harsh on her about her mistakes? And that was when he actually changed his ways and stopped criticizing Josephine. And anytime Josephine made a mistake, he would call her attention to, the fact that, oh, when he was her age, he also made so many mistakes, and that in fact he was worse than her. He would say something like, oh, you have made a mistake, Josephine, but the Lord knows it's no worse than many I have made. You were not born with judgments. That comes with experience. So what you're doing comes with experience, and you are better than I was at your age. I have been guilty of so many stupid, silly things myself. Right? I have very little inclination to criticize you or anyone. But don't you think it would have been wiser if you had done it this way, if you had done it that way, if you had done so and so? I think that is a better way, and anybody would accept the criticism better if we say it this way. Let us also take the example of E.G. Dillistone. He was an engineer in Manitoba, Canada, and he hired this new secretary who would make mistakes in her typing. There would be spelling errors here and there. And this man, even though he himself was not perfect with spellings and grammar, in fact, he was not perfect. And because of that, he kept this black book, a journal, that he would refer to anytime he needed to spell anything or to cross-check a spelling or any, grammar, things like that, spellings especially, right? He kept the book for words. But he thought that criticizing this secretary would not even make her to be proofreading her work any better. It was not going to change anything, right? So what did he do? He decided to take this approach. The next time a letter came and there were errors in this letter, he sat down with the typist and he said, somehow this word doesn't look right. It is one of the words I have always had trouble with. That's the reason I started this spelling book of mine. It will show He showed the typist the spelling book, and then he opened to the spelling book that had the exact word, the spelling of the exact word. And he said, yes, 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 here it is. I'm very conscious of my spelling now, because people do judge us by our letters and misspellings, make us look less professional. The typist would not even see that, oh, this guy is trying to criticize me or anything. She got the message. And E.G. Stone said he did not know whether this typist copied his approach or took his advice or started doing what he was doing, copied his system. But what he knew was that from that day onward, there were less errors, less spelling errors in her letters and in her works generally. Right. So that is one good way to point out people's mistakes without being direct. Yesterday we learned that you don't have to be direct if you want to criticize people, if you want to point out their errors. People are not dons. They know what you're saying. Just for example, somebody has body odor and it is so bad that it affects you, it disturbs you. And this is somebody that you always come in contact with, maybe like a co-worker. You always have to share the same space. Is it a wise thing to go to the person and say, hey, you have to take care of yourself? Why are you always smelling like a goat? Why are you always... You will make a permanent enemy that way, right? Wisdom is profitable to direct. But if you went to the person and said, oh, I really saw this nice body spray as I went shopping last week, and I thought you would like something like this, and you give the person, Abby, or maybe when you come to work, while you're at your desk, you just bring out your body spray, and then you spray it. Oh, I remember what my mom used to tell me, that people are attracted to us anytime we look nice, anytime we smell nice, and then you spray it on your body. Something like that. The person will kind of get the message, right? Because as much as possible, you want to make friends, not enemies. There's a story of Prince Bernhard here, von Bülow. He learned the sharp necessity of applying this principle that we're talking about back in 1909. He was then the Imperial Chancellor of Germany. He was the Chancellor to Wilhelm, the haughty Wilhelm, the arrogant Wilhelm, the uncultured Wilhelm of the German Kaisers, the last of the German Kaisers, actually. You know, and he was building an army, a navy that he boasted could whip their weight in wild cards. But the part of the story that I want to point out is when he went to England and he messed up. You know, when they say somebody misnyan, he said what he shouldn't have said. You know, he told them all kinds of things. He talked about how he was the only German who felt friendly toward the English. He said that he was constructing a navy against the menace of Japan. He said that he and he alone had saved England from being humbled in the dust by Russia and France. And he said it had been his campaign plan that enabled England's Lord Roberts to defeat the Boers of South Africa. He said so many things, so many unbelievable things that he shouldn't have said. And people were angry. And on top of that, he had the audacity to get all of those words published. So people were really angry at him, you know. And then when he realized it, that, oh, he had really messed up, he wanted to convince his chancellor, Bülow, to take responsibility for everything that he had said. And Bülow told him, it is not possible. How can I take responsibility? People will not even believe me. People will, you know. And this guy flared up. The Kaiser flared up to say, you consider me a donkey capable of blunders you yourself could never have committed. You see? And it was immediately that Bülow knew that, oh, he would have praised him before actually saying what he said. So he started praising him, started saying how the Kaiser was very intelligent in natural science, things that he was not able to do, and things like, he praised him on and on and on. And after all the praises, the Kaiser turned to him, somebody who had fled up, who was very angry. He turned to him and said, haven't I always told you that we complete one another famously? We should stick together, and we will, right? And he continued to defend Bulo to the point that he said, if anyone says anything to me against Prince von Bulo, I shall punch him in the nose. So they became friends. Von Bulo saved himself in time. Even though he first messed up, he could have praised him first before being direct, before being blunt. So that is a lesson. If you have anything blunt to say to anyone, praise the person first. If you don't want to praise the person first, at least talk about your own mistakes first. That, oh, you are not a saint, you are not perfect, oh, before you now point out somebody's things, somebody's errors. If a few sentences, humbling oneself and praising the other party can turn a haughty, insulted Kaiser into a staunch friend. Imagine what humility and praise can do for you and me in our daily contacts. Rightfully used, they will work veritable miracles in human relations if we learn how to praise people. So admitting our mistakes, even when we have not corrected them, can help convince somebody to change his or her behavior. Let us take the last example here. It is the example of Mr. Clarence. He discovered that his 15-year-old son had started experimenting with cigarettes. And this was because he himself and his wife, as parents of this 15-year-old boy, they were also smoking. So they were bad examples to this boy. His mom was smoking, his dad was smoking. But his dad did not want him to smoke. So he didn't go to him and say, oh, don't smoke, David, I don't want you to smoke. Please don't do that. No. He did not say that. Instead, he went to him and said, I started smoking at about your age. And told him how nicotine had gotten the best of him and how it had become almost impossible for him to stop smoking. And he also reminded his son, Dave, that you see that I have this terrible cough because I'm always smoking. And you yourself have been telling me that I need to stop even before now. Right? So he didn't threaten the boy. He didn't say, oh, if you smoke, I'm going to disown you or anything like that. He only pointed out how he himself, as the father, was hooked on cigarettes. How cigarettes was making his life miserable. How it was becoming a pain in the neck for him. So David thought about it. And he said, okay, that he would, even if he wants to start smoking, he will start smoking when he graduates from high school. But he never smoked. And he has no intention of smoking. Just because he took an example from his father. I'm not talking of the example of smoking. I'm talking of the example of how bad smoking had become for his father. So he didn't want to fall into that. And I'm sure this was possible because his father was sincere. He was honest about it. Pointed out all the bad things that he was experiencing with smoking. And the boy took a cue from it. As a result of that conversation, even the father stopped smoking. Yes. Because he said to himself that, oh, if my boy could drop the idea of smoking, with the support of his family, he quit smoking. So a good leader follows this principle. Don't be quick to point out people's mistakes as if you yourself don't make mistakes, right? You must let them know that you're also not a saint, you make mistakes. However, you would want them to change in this way or this way, Point out how what you're doing is bad to you yourself, how you don't enjoy doing it. Right, but maybe you can't help yourself. That way, they'll see things from your point of view. So don't forget principle 3. Talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. That'll be all for tonight. Thank you so much. God bless you. Don't forget to like this video, share your comments with me, and please subscribe to this channel in case you are yet to subscribe. I remain Olade Agbaje, also known as First Lady. And on this channel, I inspire you to live intentionally. I'll come your way again tomorrow by God's grace as we review chapter 4 of part 4, titled, No One Likes to Take Orders. Take good care, and until then, be intentional. Bye.